I've been reading r/NoSleep for years. Here are the best of the best. According to me, Betsy the doll. Like most people these days, I had a fucked up childhood. Who doesn't, right? My father took off before I was born and my mother was left to care for me on her own. A skill she was sorely lacking. My mother slipped right back into the drug-addled party lifestyle she'd enjoyed before I was born, and had soon turned our 2-bedroom apartment into an opium den. For the first 5 years of my life, I walked around in a confused, terrifying mist. The smoky air would flood down the hallway from our living room and slip under my bedroom door. It always seemed to linger for days. I know now that my mother wasn't a bad person, just a victim of her addictions. When she did have spare money, she would put food in the house or buy me clothes from Goodwill. The only pieces of furniture I had in my bedroom was a mattress set and a little blue and white toy chest. Not that I had a lot of toys to put in it, of course, just the 3 I'd gotten for birthdays. One was an art kit, one was a red wagon, and the last, my pride and joy, was a doll named Betsy. Betsy was my best friend. We would have imaginary tea parties together, sleep together, and even take baths together. Sometimes I even remember her voice. When I thought back on my conversations with the doll in adulthood, I realized that I was likely suffering from delusions, thanks to the always present butts of smoke that laid claim to the dingy hallways and drafty bedrooms of our small apartment. Still, I remember the sound of her voice. A pleasant, tingling lilt that was almost always coupled with a raucous giggle. I also remember the things that she said to me and the things she wanted me to do. She asked me to steal usual food or pens and pencils. She wanted me to bring her forks and knives and hit the bad man who slept on our couch. It was always something and I would always get in trouble. But she wouldn't. When I told my mother who had put me up to these games, she would scoff and shake her head. She never believed me. Adults never do. Around my 6th birthday, I asked my mother for a birthday party. I wanted to invite the mean girls from school and serve them cake and ice cream to make them like me. I remember standing in the kitchen that day with such hopes, having just asked the most important question of my entire life. The glass bottle of Coca-Cola I held was shaking in my nervous hand. I waited with bated breath as my mother continued putting groceries away, almost as if she hadn't heard me. But I knew she had. Finally, just as I had failed a 2nd time to muster the courage to repeat my question, she turned around and gave me a flippant shake of her head. A birthday party? Laura, that's ridiculous. I can't afford to feed 15 children that aren't even mine. Hell, I can barely afford to feed you. You eat like an elephant, especially for a girl your size. Or, I'm sorry, Betsy does. There's barely anything left for me to eat around here, much less a classroom of other people's brats. My face fell as she shook her head, mumbled something else under her breath and stumbled off into the living room. I heard the music go up then as more people walked in the door. Some left, some stayed. I never knew them either way. It simply wasn't fair. My mother threw parties all the time. What about me? I was a kid. All my friends had birthday parties, and now the mean girls at school would know I was too poor to have one, and they would tease me even more. I felt tears start to well in the corners of my eyes, and I choked back a sob while I ran to my room and slammed the door behind me. Betsy was lying on the bed and smiling. She was always smiling. Usually it made me feel better, but today it just made me angry. She just kept staring at me, smiling. She was going to tell me to do something bad, again. This was why Mother wouldn't throw me a birthday party. It was because of all the trouble I got into because of her. This was her fault. Betsy didn't have to go to school, and Betsy never got in trouble like I did, and in my young mind, I truly believed it was the doll, not my mother, who was to blame for everything. I snapped then. I screamed in indignant rage, and I threw the bottle as hard as I could at the bed. It hit Betsy on her forehead, and she fell on the floor. Good. I picked up the bottle, and I hit her again and again. I thought I heard her laugh, and I hit her harder. Then I laughed. When my rage was spent, I dragged Betsy to my toy chest and threw her in. I slammed it shut and kicked the chest against the wall. I never wanted to see Betsy again, ever. I never owned another doll after Betsy. About a week later, the police came and 2 nice ladies took me to live in a new home in a new state, with food and toys and no drugs. The trunk went into storage and the wagon disappeared. I never saw my mother again. As I got older, my foster parents admitted she was in jail doing 25 years. That was fine with me. I felt nothing for her anyway. I still had nightmares because of my life with that woman, but then, slowly, I began to heal. I focused on doing well in school and I ignored my mother's letters from prison. She reached out to me several times in my 20s as well, but I always declined her calls. That is, until this morning. I'm 30 now, with my own children and a loving, honest husband. I have a beautiful house, 2 dogs, and a career as a social worker trying to make a difference for kids who had it bad like me. I'm happy, I'm steady, and I'm content. So when I got a voicemail from my mother informing me she had been paroled and that she wished to speak, decided to let her say her piece. Since the kids were home from school, I went out into our shed in the backyard to return my mother's call. The shed was the children's domain and they used it to play in the summer. I sat on my old toy chest, which was currently being used as tea party table, and dialed the number she had left me. 3 rings. Hello? Laura? Hello, Mother. How are you? Oh, Laura, thank you for speaking to me. I know you have your own life now and a family. I would love to meet them someday. I just wanted to tell you how sorry I am for everything. Mother, you're not meeting my kids. Ever. And since you called me, I'm going to what I have needed to say for years. The opium, the heroin, they destroyed you. The worst of it is that you almost took me down with you. I was 5. That was no home for a child. Honestly, I'm surprised it took you so long to get caught. Laura, I know how it seems, but I honestly know nothing. Look, it hardly matters, and I do understand why you would feel that way. Why you would hate me and not want me to meet your little ones. I learned a lot about forgiveness while I was away and just... Oh, Laura, I'm so sorry about Betsy. Betsy? I paused, confused. Why would you care about her? I know, Laura. Believe me, I do. It was all my fault. The drugs, the partying, and Betsy. Oh God, if I'd only paid attention, if I had only known. She's gone, and it's because of me. As my mother began to cry, I tapped my fingers on the toy box, impatiently. The drugs had clearly fried her brain. Mother? I sighed. Why are you talking about Betsy? And why do you even care? I know where Betsy is. Right underneath me. What are you talking about, Laura? Oh God, where is she? I shifted uncomfortably. Well, Betsy's in the trunk, where she's always been. There was a beat of stunning silence. What do you mean your sister's in the trunk? Sister? What the hell are you talking about? Back on drugs so soon? That's a record, even for you. Betsy is a goddamn doll. I locked her in my toy box a few days before you got arrested for possession. Laura. Oh God, no. No. Laura, what have you done? I wasn't arrested because of the drugs, Laura. I was arrested because of Betsy's disappearance. You always called her your little doll, but we thought you knew. Oh God, we thought you knew. Laura, no, what have you done to my baby? My mind had gone blank, and with no emotion, I set the phone down next to me and stood up. I could hear the muffled sound of my mother's anguished cries and feel the dark clutch of possibility in my own chest. Memories were stirring in the back of my mind, threatening to flood forward into my consciousness. They pushed against a door in my mind that had been locked so tightly for so long that I had forgotten it was even there. Was it even possible? Could the trauma and the opium have really led me to believe that a small child was actually dull? Begging for food and utensils to eat with, asking me to protect her from the bad man? No. I slowly turned around and brought my eyes down the makeshift tea party table. Surely it was too small. You couldn't fit a person in there. You couldn't. But then, what about a very small, starving, emaciated child? What about her? Would she fit? Would an investigator even bother looking for a person in this chest? I knew I wouldn't. It was just too small. And I was sure we had opened the toy box at some point over the years, hadn't we? Or had something swimming in the dark recesses of my memories always stopped me? I couldn't remember ever seeing it open. I knelt down to the ground and opened the clasps. It would be better to not look. After all that I had overcome, this new life that I had earned for myself. It could all be undone by opening this toy box. I shouldn't open it. I should throw it in a landfill and forget it ever existed. I should not look inside. I opened the chest. I never had a doll. My mother never could afford to buy me one. I never had a wagon either, for that matter. But I did have a toy box, a pretty blue and white toy box. And when I was 5, I beat my little sister to death and put her in it. Come on. I thought it was a disappearance. Fair enough, she killed her sister, but wouldn't there be blood and a smell from the box? This is my sign to stop browsing Reddit and do my homework. I wonder if the reader went to a mental institution after this. This is going to keep me up at night. Holy snap, this made me cry. Every time I come to r/NoSleep, I read until I find a story that bad touches me in a special, uncomfortable way. One that makes me close the tab and think, that's enough for tonight. This was Iz. Holy shit, this was it. I don't think opium alone would do this. I suspect you're not aware of the whole story. Either there was something else in the air, or there's something going on with you. Don't feel like you are at fault. You were high off your mom's drugs. Your children never looked inside the trunk after using it all these years. Good thing, I guess. I've been reading NoSleep and lurking without a username for days, but this story was fucking awesome. I had to comment. Nice job. Oh my Jesus, that's horrifying. I thought it was going to be a ghost. I'm so sorry. Congratulations. I read this story when it was new and upvoted it then. I think it was really well written, and what I twist. I actually, the felt characters, your pain when you described the realization. A very worthy win. Congratulations. Happy Cake Day. Happy Cake Day. This was awesome. You totally deserve to win the January contest. Very creative. You have a gift. Develop it. Since she disappeared, they never asked you if you knew/saw anybody who might have taken her. I have no idea. I remember nothing like that. When her mom said Betsy ate like an elephant, it seemed pretty sarcastic, like she knew she was a doll, not a baby. I think the sarcasm was implied to guilt-trip OP because the mom thought that the OP was stealing food for herself. The OP probably stole a lot more food that a 2-year-old child could eat since she thought her sister was a doll, not a 2-year-old. Totally not her fault. It's tragic, but not her fault. I mean, can you suffer from similar symptoms of smoking opium from breathing in second-hand? If so, I can only imagine what the effects would have been on a kid's mind. And the status of limitations are up, so it's not like they could charge her with murder, right? There's no statute of limitations on murder, unfortunately. This is the first time I read a NoSleep story twice, just to get the full depth of it. One of the best I've read on this subreddit. The answer will probably turn out to be completely obvious to everyone but me. But since it's 6 in the morning and I'm deliriously tired, I have to ask. At the end, you brought up that not only did you never own a doll, you never had the red wagon either. Was the red wagon an allegory, having a deeper meaning or turning out to be something else your psyche confused, just as the Betsy doll did? Or was it just meant to show how rattled your mind was while under the care of biological mother? I don't know what the red wagon was. I have spoken to my mother once more when they came to collect the body, and she told me there was no red wagon. I wasn't going to read this because I've had my fill of creepy doll stories, but I'm so glad I did. It went in an entirely different direction than I expected and is so heartbreaking. You also wrote it beautifully. This is a fantastic story, but wouldn't the police find the box? Look in it, smell it. You'd think, but this was a very small chest, not anything that you'd think would fit a body, even a small one. Betsy was incredibly malnourished and stuffed in at grotesquely awkward angles. Well, that threw me for a loop. If they prosecute you, then you need to mention your mother's drug use. That should hopefully give them an idea of what happened. Oh, wow. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault. You couldn't have known. Drugs screw up adults' minds horribly. On a young child, it would be even worse. I'm so sorry. I had to reread this to see if I'd missed a hint somewhere early on. Nope. That twist hit me like a ton of bricks straight in the face. You poor child. Your poor baby sister. My heart broke. This is a lesson why you shouldn't take drugs when you have dolls. Or have dolls when taking drugs. God damn it. Or little sisters. Truly did not see that coming. It's horrible, but you can't blame yourself. You were too young. The drugs and everything affected your mind. R.I.P. Betsy. Almost didn't read this because I'm terrified of dolls, but happy I did. Great story. I'm so happy to have found another person that's terrified of dolls. I want to hug you. No way, my great-grandma used to buy me porcelain dolls for every occasion until I was 12, and my mom forced me to keep them lined up on my dresser so when she came to visit, she would feel good about giving me things I could cherish. Every night, though, I felt like they were really watching me, and some nights even thought I could hear them whispering. I had to have a complete tantrum to get my mom to put all of them in the attic. To this day, I still am terrified of them. I feel your pain. I feel like I've experienced the corny horror movie thing where they turn their head and watch you. Then you turn around and they're looking in another direction. Yeah. Fuck that. I swear they would blink and move. My mother collected them and set them up around the house. Well, we moved and she only has one now, but it's always in a different spot because she loves to mess with me. Apparently, anxiety attacks are funny. Oh God, yes. When I was 12 or something, we had a secret Santa. Except instead of choosing whom we'll buy a present for, we'd buy a present and then pick them out from a bag. When my turn came, a friend said, "Pick mine, it's so cute." I trusted her and picked it, and when I unwrapped it, it was a porcelain doll. Of a clown. Yes, it wasn't just a porcelain doll, nor was it a clown doll. It was a porcelain clown doll. Can you imagine? It was hard fixing my face from horror to fake delight. I got home and I stuck it as far back in my bookshelf as I could reach. When I was in middle school, a friend of mine had a porcelain clown doll that was hanging from the ceiling on fishing line. I stayed at her house one time. Porcelain dolls scare the shit out of me. Oh, yikes. Did it look like it committed suicide? Meanwhile, I was the weird kid. In 3rd grade, we had good behavior tickets, and one of the prizes was a tiny porcelain-faced harlequin doll. I wanted it so bad. Despite being teased and not having friends, this one boy gave me the one ticket I was missing. I wasn't bad, it just was a lot of tickets, LMAO. I actually missed the little thing. I feel you, man. My mom used to buy my sister porcelain dolls and line them up on the dresser across from my bed. I thought I could hear them whispering and see their eyes move. One of many creepy, fucked up doll experiences from my childhood. When I was around 9 or 10, maybe a little younger, I was being babysat all summer by a friend's mother. My friend had these collectible-style Barbie dolls on her bookshelf out of the packaging. The ones that aren't made to be played with and are dressed up in black dresses and have sashes. My friend commented once that she didn't actually like them very much because they had real eyelashes. Rather, their eyelashes were made from human hair. Whether or not that's true, it still creeped me out. So while she left the room, I went and picked one up. As I did so, I realized that its eyes opened and closed. So I tried tilting it backwards and bringing it back up again to try and get the eyes to move, but it seemed to only randomly do such. Later that day, I mentioned the Barbies to my friend again, mentioning how the eyes were stuck and it wouldn't blink the right way. She said that they weren't made that way. The eyes were painted on like any other Barbie. When I checked later on, she was right. They were painted on the doll's face. When I was about 3, my mother got a shit ton of porcelain dolls and hung them up around her bedroom. There were no windows in the room, and the electricity in the room didn't work. Such was expected from an old, cheap apartment in downtown Brooklyn. I had to go through that room every time I wanted to get into my own room, or out of it. Every time I passed, I could have sworn that in the dark corners of the room they were staring. The collection only grew as the years went by. There was one in particular that I remember. Its packaging was, I kid you not, a coffin. The damn thing was called Bloody Mary, for God's sake, and my mother thought it was a brilliant idea to put it, with its coffin, in my room. I had non-stop nightmares for 2 months before I begged my mother to get rid of it. My grandma made porcelain dolls, and when I lived at her house at one point, she had over 300. They were everywhere, in every room. They were always watching. It was terrifying.